Game.
All right, guys, and we are back with our second match of the night. University of Western Ontario versus UT Austin. Spawning here in the bottom right position, representing Western Ontario, is going to be our blue Protoss player, Brownra, which is, I'm not really sure how to feel about that name. And spawning in the top left position on Akalon Flats is going to be the orange Zerg player, representing UT Austin. It is Quasar. So we have a PVZ here, and yeah, man, I'm kind of surprised. Well, once again, the team that maybe was expected to take the match is already down a game here with Astoji taking a loss.
Yeah, Quasar, he's representing UT Austin, and they're up one game, but UWO really the favorite in this match. They've, placed very well in previous CSLs, and, they have just like a huge lineup, with Ostagy, Brown Raw, Corlith, and others. And UT Austin really, with that first game showing they can take care of Ostagy. If they can beat Ostagy, I'm not sure who they can't beat. Quasar here, he's up against Brown Raw, and he's a Zerg player. He's on this map against, a Protoss player, Brown Raw. And I don't know, what do you think of Zerg versus Protoss on this map?
Well, I was just gonna. Well, on this map, I would say that Protoss players, they have a bit of a tough time even holding this ramp. I mean, you can of course get that nice wall off, but it is a wide ramp, so you can definitely get some aggression on. But once you get your two bases established here as a Zerg player, that third base is just not the most comfortable, I feel like, and a lot of quick two base aggression coming out from the Protoss player can be very effective. I don't know, and I've also seen a lot of long macro games on this. Eventually the Protoss player is able to get up to that very scary Sky Toss composition on this map. So it's kind of a mixed bag. This game, or this map, has produced some interesting results. But I want to talk a little bit about the stats of these two guys. Brownra, throughout this particular qualifier, has only played in 2 of the games, but he's gone 2-0. One of those wins being against the Zerg player. Quasar, on the other hand, going 4-1 in the qualifier, but actually taking a loss to Protoss. So, we're gonna have to see how this match pans out.
Yeah, they have some pretty impressive records. I agree with you completely about that third base. The third base for the Zerg player. There's destructible rocks right there between the natural and the third. And for a Zerg player, that's a really tough obstacle. And, most of them, they won't even think about that. They'll just go for this other third down here, and that's what Quasar is definitely opting to do.
Yeah.
The trouble with Zerg is, they get the Zerglings out, and if you set the Zerglings on the rocks, it'll take you about, 10 or 20 minutes to take down the rocks. Otherwise you're going to have to get roaches or something, and that, sometimes is very inconvenient for a Zerg player early game who's trying to maximize drone production.
Yeah, I mean, what you just said is just so painfully true, unfortunately, on this map. Zerg players cannot take that, lovely. They would love to take that base. They would absolutely love to take that base, but to break down those rocks so early, you have to commit to way too many Zerglings. So you're basically forced to take this base out here if you want to, continue your drone production. Interesting to note here, Brown Raw committing to double gateway and chrono boosting his +1. I can't say I disagree with this play because, like we were saying, that third base a little bit exposed, so Brown Raw's just going to put the pressure on, just brute force, man, just zealots and +1 right off the gate.
Now, something interesting Brown Raw is doing right now, he has 2 assimilators, but he's only only saturated 2 per assimilator right now. Previously, he only had one of the assimilators operating, and the other was entirely unsaturated. So I think he's, kind of carefully gauging how much gas income he wants, and, he's working with those 2 assimilators and being flexible with it. And there's nothing wrong with that, putting up an assimilator before you need it. As long as you don't, invest too much too early,
Yeah.
it's all right.
No, I love that play. I love, just managing your gas economy exactly how you want it to be. His gas, despite all of that, does seem a little bit high, so I'm curious to see what he wants to do with this. He could do all sorts of funky stuff once that Cybercore finishes. He could even throw down double Stargate or something really crazy, because already, look at this, +1 Zealots in the third base. I mean, this is such a opener that you just don't really see that often. Zerglings are starting to go down here, but it looks like he will be able to clean this up, so good job by Quasar making what looks to be just the right amount of Zerglings to deal with this.
Yeah, those +1 zealots, they'll two-hit those Zerglings, but, Quasar, he just keeps pulling back the Zerglings, so they heal up that 1 HP that you need to not get 2 hit, to, make it a 3-hit for the Zealots.
Right.
And just very effective micro from Brown Raw there, and those Zealots were not able to do much.
Now we see Brown Raw throwing down some cannons at his natural, so it looks like he wants to take a very defensive position from here. Just continuing to make Zealots here, and this is all part of his strategy, I'm assuming. Get these Zealots out and force the Zerg into an uncomfortable position where they feel like they have to put on counter aggression. And I don't want to say, that I'm like awesome or anything, but double Stargate coming down.
And that's fantastic. Quasar, he's really hasn't taken the bait. I think he's built just the right amount of Zerglings and Roaches to deal with these Zealots. If he built any more, I think, that would have been the response that Brown Raw was looking for from these Zealots. Trying to bait the Zerg player to make less drones, but Quasar really didn't fall for it, and at this point he's going to trap these Zealots, and the Zerglings and Roaches, I think they'll be able to get them before they get up to the ramp.
I will agree with you that he didn't necessarily fall for it, because Quasar has made a very conscious decision to actually put on more aggression. So in a sense, he did fall for it, because Brown Rod, look at how protected he is at this point. 3 cannons are going to be so great, and of course 2 Void Rays coming out, and he has a Robotics Bay finishing. I mean, this is just so interesting. The force fields do go down, they are good, but a couple of sentries are going to get taken out, it looks like. Now the Roaches and Lings going to work on that gateway.
And this is where the cannons are worth their weight in gold. That's the last force field that just got thrown down. Cannon's been doing DPS this whole time, but the wall just broke down. That gateway's gone, and the Zerg units are in here. They're taking out those cannons, and, Brown Raw, he's a couple Roaches just leaking into the main base, and those are going to be quite annoying. And the Void Rays get scouted. That's the most important thing that just happened, is Quasar found the Void Rays.
Yeah, Quasar was feeling pretty good walking into the base, and when he saw the Void Rays, he goes, well, I'm on a time clock, but that's okay. I can still just do as much damage as I can here and start preparing for these Void Rays, and that's, what I'm assuming he's going to start doing here. Macro Hatch is going down. He knows that a 4th base is not a smart decision, and look at that production tab. Hydralisk already out on the field, or about to be out on the field, with muscular augments, so getting that speed, and Quasar should be in a decent position here, but I mean, Void Rays are Void Rays, and they can kind of just kill everything even still, so we'll have to see.
Yeah, with 12 Hydralisks on the way, I'd say that's a very appropriate response. But there are the 2 Stargates, and, you can get quite a few Void Rays out of that. And with the Colossus, we see a Robotics Bay finally going down. With the Colossus supplementing that, they can really handle the Hydralisks. So really a very expensive late-game army, gas-intensive for Brown Raw. And he's just jumping for those gas-intensive units as soon as possible. And it's working out for him.
This 3rd base is just going to be so tough for Quasar to break. With the Void Ray being as good as it is now in Heart of the Swarm, we're seeing a return back to that Void Ray Colossus composition. Yes, Tempest and Templar do eventually make it into the mix, but I mean, how many times have we seen Colossus Void Ray, make an appearance? It's very, very often, and that's what we see Brown Raw going for. And now with this 3rd base looking just so solid and secure, Quasar is going to have to come up with something a little bit creative here to make sure that Brown Raw doesn't get to that ridiculously powerful composition.
And Quasar, he seems like he's going for all of the tech paths at once. He's got the Hydralisk coming out in mass. He has the Spire, he has the Infestor Pit. Those are both about to finish. And right now he has just a ton of Hydralisks. If you look at the unit tab, there are 32 Hydralisks on the map. And I think they're going to do what you suggested might be impossible, and that is attack that 3rd base. There's a lot of cannons here.
It's a lot of Hydras,
Brownwell
though.
has a great position. He has a lot of Void Rays stacked, but the Hydra count is huge, and I think it's all going to come down to the force fields.
Yes, the force fields are going to be absolutely key here. Hydra speed, definitely very useful, but they're still not super fast if you notice, and you can cut them off with force fields. But here comes Quasar actually swinging up into the natural, and Brown Run not quite prepared for that. One gateway does go down, but the force fields will still be good here. Cannons are starting to pick away at the Hydras, and Quasar is going to be forced to back off there. But getting a gateway, I mean, not a good trade for him overall, but definitely keeping Brownra on his toes, keeping him a little bit nervous here. Links are going to be funneled into those cannons, and you know, like I said, Brownra is just in such a good defensive position right now.
Yeah, Brownra, he's been working on his upgrades right now. He's at 1-0. Oh, the Hydralists, they're coming back in. They snipe that Forge.
Ooh, and he forces the charge on those Void Rays as well. Not particularly useful, but...
Yes, he did, and he's just going to keep poking in and out, and at this point I think he knows he can't do much more with the Colossus on the scene. Thermal Lance not quite finished, but when that's done, you're not going to be able to do much more of that poking in and out with the Hydralisks.
Yep, so more Void Rays are in production. He's just constantly pumping those bad boys out, and that third base is, you know, once again still secure. Also getting a Forge here, just to make sure his upgrades can continue to roll. If you look at the supply counts, that's when it gets a little bit scary. But look at that bank. Quasar, you know, he's using these Hydralisks so smartly. He's not losing too many. He's making sure that Brown Rust's not getting too complacent, making sure that he's constantly remaking forges, gateways, cannons. And now look at that. More Hydralisks and Vipers. And
oh my gosh. You know what I love about Quasar right now? He is being so aggressive with his macro. He is expanding all over the place. He has the 4 bases secured and saturated, and he has 3 more going down. So, you know, he's expecting to lose, you know, 1 or 2 of those 3. But, you know, he's in a great position to move into the late game and, you know, just scale up his macro continuously.
Yeah, and what was that game we saw earlier today? I think it was Theory versus Salgood, where, you know, Salgood ended up making a lot of Hydralisks as well, and I was saying how, you know, once you get into that late game scenario, the only way they can be useful is if you get a nice number of Vipers, and that's exactly what we see Quasar doing. Of course, Quasar's just been in a better position this entire game, so he's able to have that economy to get those Vipers, and look at this, Evo Chambers in the middle of the map. Such a great technique to just make sure your Vipers instantly get up to full mana.
Yeah, he's just consuming that army of Evo Chambers. It looks beautiful.
Yeah, this is awesome, man. I love seeing Vipers. They're just a unit that really do add a lot of fun into the game. They're very delicate. They're relatively quick, and they can, of course, change the entire tide of a battle. So I'm actually really pumped to see these, man. Vipers, we still don't see them all that often because Zerg players, I feel like, just don't feel super comfortable with them just yet.
Now it looks like Brownra is ready to move out and secure third. He did exactly what you suggested. He put down a couple High Templars and is researching Storm. At this point, he has so many Void Rays. 15 down, another 2 on the way. We're going to see if these Vipers... Oh my god!
And that's why Vipers can be so delicate. I mean, the High Templars, yes, they're good for Storm, but once you go for those Templar and you have those feedbacks, they eliminate those Vipers so fast. And Quasar looking strong 1 second, and all of a sudden the other second it's like he is running back with his tail between his legs. I don't even know what to say. That was just so brutal.
Yeah, those Vipers just melted instantly, and right now Brownra, I think he's feeling like he's in a very commanding position with 17 Void Rays, and the only thing is they're at one weapons upgrade, 1 plasma shield actually, no armor yet, and the Void Rays, I want to see him focus on upgrades. He is not getting any air upgrades right now. Definitely important when you have 19 Void Rays, which is about to focus on your air upgrades.
I mean, does it even matter? I mean, yes, focusing on air upgrades are awesome, but I mean, Brownra's composition is so ridiculous right now. I mean, all of those Void Rays, I mean, what can you really do to wipe those out? I mean, back in the day, to deal with this composition, it wasn't Corruptors, it wasn't Hydralisks, it was Infestors. And we don't really see that from Quasar, and not to mention Infestors just aren't as good in Heart of the Swarm. Actually, excuse me, we do see a couple of infestors out on the field. Just one right now, though, and that's not really going to cut it. We do see spore crawlers coming down for Quasar, and that will be useful. A lot of those bases that Quasar put up a while ago are starting to get taken out by Brown Ra. But Quasar's bank is looking pretty decent. Brown Ra not wasting any time getting up even more production and a fleet beacon. That means we're going to see some Tempests and maybe even a few carriers, but I highly doubt we'll see those. Tempest, though, definitely on the way.
Yup, at this point, Brown Ra, he's taken out both of the hatcheries at the northern side of the map, and it looks like really with his unit composition, he's adding in a fleet beacon just now, and it looks like what he's done with his unit composition is he kind of went to the bank, he said, hey, I'm going to take out a second mortgage on my Nexus, and I just want you to give me the most expensive unit composition you can think of, and that's what he's got right now.
I like that.
It's been very effective.
And we do see a little bit of aggression coming here from Brown Ra. It's going to get cleaned up. More Vipers out on the field, but Quasar has to be emotionally scarred after the way, you know, his last fleet of Vipers just got feedback so quickly. You know, and that's the danger of, you know, getting them up to full mana, is that one feedback will just instantly eliminate them. But it's kind of a catch-22. I mean, you have to have those Vipers with full energy, otherwise they're not really that useful. But once they are, they're very susceptible to those High Templars. So a balancing act, definitely. And we do see Brown Ra actually sacrificing probes. It is getting that to that time where it's like, well, I'm going to have an unkillable army, so why do I need money?
Yeah, at this point, both players have realized they have so much cash, they're entirely maxed out. And their only room for expansion is really building static defenses. We just saw 10 cannons go down for Brown Ra, and plenty of Spore and Spine Crawlers going down for Quasar.
Yep, so, you know, he's definitely, you know, like you say, getting those Spore Crawlers up, and that is going to be helpful, you know, with such a high, you know, sky count over here. Spore Crawler is definitely going to be more effective than just Spine Crawlers. With those sacrifice probes, we are seeing those Tempests go into production. Another robotics facility as well. So, you know, it's getting to the point where if Brown Ra even loses his entire army, if he continues to bank up the way he is, he can make a couple of Colossi, 4 to 5 Void Rays, High Templar, all kinds of stuff right off the gate. He's just getting that production to a point where even if he does lose this army, he can at the very least start to rebuild it very quickly. So here comes Quasar, though, making a big move across the map. He's getting himself in a pretty vulnerable position, it looks like. I mean, that is... I would be pretty scared as Quasar. He does end up backing off there.
That's definitely the right idea, though. He knew that Brown Ra had his army all the way up at the north. He knew the army was way out of position. He had a small opportunity, and really what Quasar is trying to do is he's trying to get any chance to, you know, get an engagement that doesn't involve Brown Ra's army, because he knows if he goes head-to-head with Brown Ra's army, it may not end very well. So he's trying to, you know, lay down some harassment at this third base, and Brown Ra's responding, and all these Void Rays are on the way over. And Quasar, he needs to get out now.
He needs to get out now. This is the composition. This is the composition that... Oh my god, a huge fungal actually goes down on everything. High Templars are trying to get some storms off, but those fungals were pretty good. They're not actually going to end up killing those Void Rays, though, unfortunately. And feedbacks do go down on those, and Quasar... Oh, his supply not looking too healthy. There he goes. He remaxes on 37 Corruptors.
That is exactly the unit I would get if I was Quasar right now. There are so many Tempests and Void Rays and Colossus on the field. If that is enough Corruptors to overcome those Void Rays, then, you know, this entire game could get flipped on its head immediately.
Yeah, I mean, everything is going to be able to be attacked from the Corruptors. There's really no other unit to make in this situation when you are Quasar. I would get Corruptors and Infestors just to kind of... I mean, look at how balled up Brown Ra's army is. If you just get a few Fungals off, those High Templar, yes, they have feedbacks, but look at Quasar's gas count. You know, he could get enough Infestors that he could even sack a couple to those High Templars' feedbacks and still get those Fungals that he desperately needs. Infested Terran's not as strong, which of course was another great way to deal with just so many Void Rays. But still a reasonable response. Brown Ra's upgrades, though, they're getting to such a point where it's like all of these things might not matter just because +3 air weapons, +2 air armor, shields level 3, and ground weapons level 3. Brown Ra is going to be able to push over here and take out this base. And I mean, if you guys haven't seen Sky Toss and this unkillable army yet in Heart of the Swarm, this is exactly what it looks like, and this is exactly how hard it is to kill.
Yeah, once they hit 333, those Protoss armies are really hard to deal with. And yeah, really earlier we saw with those fungals, it was kind of the perfect failure. They all got those, the Void Rays and the Colossus down, all the shields, and, they were about to start doing damage on the life, and then the Infestors got cleaned up, and all those shields regened, and those Void Rays are still hanging around. So hopefully next time Quasar with all those Corruptors, he'll be able to do a little bit more. And you can see that we have just like a huge cloud of Corruptors just sitting in the middle of the map, ready to do.
So many.
Yeah, there's so many right there.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that, I mean, if Void Rays were already good against Corruptors, relatively so in Wings of Liberty once they got the charge, but now with that, charge that immediately starts doing more damage to armored units, those Corruptors end up dying very quickly. So Infestors as part of that equation will be very useful. Now we see Ultras coming out on the field. And those could be useful. We do see Quasar actually trying to take out this Nexus from Brown Ra. Brown Ra now getting actually very aggressive with his expanding. This is, a base that Quasar would normally take.
And Quasar actually just sniped that Nexus. That was perfect. Just the right amount of Zerglings. Zerglings do so much DPS. They're so utile in the late game where they can just come in and snipe these buildings. Once they have those adrenal glands.
Is that
and level
utile?
3. Yeah, utile. They're very useful. Utile. They're synonyms.
Oh, okay. I've actually never heard that word. I feel like I'm learning a lot about StarCraft and the English language here.
Yeah, hopefully I used it right.
So yeah, Brown Ra, I like, now that he knows that Infestors are a presence, he's consciously splitting up his army so it's not so tightly balled up. So you do see a nice little line here as it approaches this base here, and even if Infestors come into this mix, not really going to be super effective with those fungals. We do see the High Templar getting in position as well. Quasar looks like he is going to bother to try and save this base, but honestly, it's already a lost cause. The base does go down. Some fungals do go off on the Void Rays. Here come the Corruptors. Going to try and close the gap here. Storms are coming down as well, and look at how fast everything is dying.
Oh my gosh, the Corruptors all stacked up. They just took some very heavy storms. Now these Void Rays they're up against them, they're just cleaning up. They're still charged. And that's it for Quasar's army. He's going to have to remax, and it looks like he just left the game. No GG. Quite unfortunate.
He just left, man. He just left. That was the unbeatable composition that everybody has been talking about. Brown Ra playing it exactly how you should if you're going to use this style. Just slow, safe, always expanding, getting a lot of cannons. I mean, check out his base. It's just tons of cannons at each one. And yeah, in the end, Quasar just couldn't get the composition to deal with it.
Yeah, like it or not, those Protoss Death Balls, they really do quite some work. And he made the investment really early on to get those Void Rays, and he just stuck with it. And it definitely paid off in the end there.
Yep. So once again, shout out to our sponsors, NCIX, MSI, and RaidCall. We're giving away almost too much stuff, I feel like. Laptops, monitors. Come into RaidCall chat, and come chat with us while we take a break here. When we come back, we're going to be hopping into the 2v2 between Western Ontario and UT Austin, so stay tuned.